Thought I would just let you dance for a little while. But hello and welcome everybody to Cosmic Divide episode 28. Yes, it is the Masters Shanghai preview episode. My name is Elevated as usual, joined by TMV from across the pond, across the way. Formerly the colonizer of my country. I don't know where I'm going with this one, so let's probably move on to another subject.
Many could say. No, by the way, just not me personally. I didn't personally do that. Just putting that out there, but many people could start the podcast that way. I'm sure, watching across the globe. To be honest, a good portion of people.
Yeah, Anyway, I just say what was on everybody's mind as they look at an American and a British person talking about Valorant.
Yes,
we got some big news, TMV. Lots of Valorant news, but also we have some sponsored news. Yes, that's right. The podcast moving up in the world. We are now officially still the number 2 podcast about Valorant, shortly behind PaTiTeK, that other podcast that some people watch from time to time. But yeah, we got to shout out our sponsor, YAASA Play, the desk sponsor of Acend, providing all our gamers, our pro players with height adjustable desks. And you too can win a height adjustable desk from YAASA Play. It is a USB port charging up down 3 memory function key lock desk, has collision sensors, a stable frame, powder coated steel with aluminum feet, and it is height adjustable with 2 powerful but silent motors, so you can get it at the perfect height. Use a height adjustable desk. I use a height adjustable desk, and as you game more and more, sometimes standing up is good. Do you ever play standing up, or do you just work?
I don't play standing up, but no? I do my stats and stuff standing up. I try to stand up whenever I can, but do you play standing up?
I have from time to time. Yeah, it's not the worst. It's not the worst. Not the worst.
Maybe I'll try.
So I'm going to be throwing the link in chat from time to time. It's also in the description below. You can enter in multiple different ways using the Gleam.io link that is now in chat. And we will probably be doing this giveaway for the next couple of weeks, so lots of opportunities to enter. But yeah, give the sponsor a look, and you could potentially win a height adjustable desk, which is good for both your lower back and also your gameplay. Exactly. Get a little motion like TMV has. But yeah, cool. Now that I've made this very awkward TMV, what's the first topic that we're going to be talking about?
We're going to talk about the Dev Diaries. It just dropped. What a time to do a podcast. Oh, yeah. Literal big news drops, podcast, boom. In your face, boom. Just like that. Because there's big news in there. Let's start with the map rotations, which is kind of the only thing that I think is like, Giga confirmed. Like, the only thing that they really
Giga confirmed.
Said. Breeze and split out, Haven back in. So this is coming at the end of Masters Shanghai. Patch 8.11.
June, I believe, is when it drops.
Yeah, early June. And Haven and the new map, whatever the new map is, will be coming out. That I would suspect is going to get showcased at the Shanghai final, much like Clove was. I would suspect that is the case.
There's already a show match on the schedule for Shanghai, so.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, that's almost certainly what it's going to be. Tell me, Breeze and split out, Haven new map in. Thoughts?
So I guess the first thing is that I'm wrong about my prediction that they would never have 2 3-site maps in the pool at the same time. So I think that's kind of interesting.
A classic elevated.
Yeah, I'm wrong about many things. But I guess I'm probably going to be wrong about this take as well, which is that I'm a little sad that they're rotating Breeze out. I know everybody hates Breeze, but I really feel like we haven't given very much time to cook on the map. Like, yes, we have, a couple of new comps, but it was like the old Breeze had some new stuff, and then they reverted the Hall's change, and then we just went back to the old comps. Nobody really tried to do anything different. I mean, I guess whatever. I'm gonna be honest. The A side on that map is dog. It is dog water. I don't mind the B site with the pillar, and like there's some sort of interesting stuff that you can do. But A site with the pyramids, terrible site. Honestly, just make it a 1-site map. Just one lane directly to B site. That'll be the unique. Delete halls, delete a site. That'll be the unique part of that map. It's just a one site map. But yeah, do you think Breeze will ever come back?
That is the question I was gonna ask you as well, because I think obviously as we get more and more maps with the new map, it'll be 11. You know, I could see a definite world where they just retire Breeze, because I do think, like you say, it just has problems. Like, it has big problems, and it's interesting. I don't know why I distinctly remember this, but I definitely do. That when Breeze came out, I remember like the article that came out with it was like, "Hey, this is a really big map, and it's a really big map so that certain agents that maybe can't do as well on other maps, that they can thrive." And I can't help but think that they were releasing Breeze thinking about the Viper that was terrible, that everyone said was the worst agent in the game, thinking, oh, well, they'll have to play Viper on this map. Here's a map for Viper. Not realizing, of course, that when they buffed Viper, they created a monster, right? A monster that was way better than people even realized back then.
Yeah.
And I think about that, like, and there is some truth to that, right? Like, agents like, obviously Viper is a bad example, but agents like Yoru, right, might be a better example, where Yoru does see quite a bit of play nowadays on Breeze, and so that there is something in it. But I do think that the problem with that is that you can only play certain agents, right?
Yeah.
It's not like
you literally can't play.
Yeah, you can't play certain ones. Yeah. Which I think is just a really limiting factor that a lot of people don't enjoy. I think that honestly is one of the reasons people don't like Breeze, is because, hey, I'm a Fade main, I'm a Brim main, I'm a whatever, right? Like, and my agent just doesn't work on this map, right? I can't find value very often with my utility on this map, and that probably sucks for those people. So, will Breeze come back? I mean, I'm not gonna say it definitely won't come back, but I would be surprised if it comes back anytime soon, because, like, if you think about it, like, for the next couple of map rotations, right? Like, I want Fracture to come back. I like Fracture. I think I understand Fracture isn't like the most popular map, but I don't think it's like the most hated either. I think people would want to see it back, and Pearl, I think, is in that same boat where, like, a Pearl, I think, with a couple changes. It's interesting. I was playing a Throw City game. It is interesting to play Throw City on those other maps and remind yourself what those maps are actually like, playing them again.
For people who don't know what Throw City is.
Throw City is my Discord 10-mans, custom 10-mans, that are very fun. Go and join my Discord and go and join the custom 10-mans. They're good. But yeah, like, playing a game on Pearl again, like, I had fun. I was like, oh, this map's not that bad. Like, yeah, okay, there is still a bit of a belong problem, but, like, if they just changed where you could plant, genuinely, like, it would be a really good map. And so that for me means that, like, okay, well, the wait time for Breeze, then, if you're talking about like multiple map rotations that might happen before it comes back, you're probably looking at like a couple years, maybe at minimum, for Breeze to come back, and who knows what the state the game will be in by then, right? So yeah, it's certainly going to be a long time for Breeze. But let's talk about Split, because that one's definitely going to be more controversial, right? Breeze, apart from you, apparently, everyone, I think, will be pretty happy with Breeze going. Split, though, obviously was the first map ever to rotate out, so it's not maybe a shock that it's time's up, old man, again for Split. But I am I am a little surprised still, because I think Split is good. I think Split's a good map, and I would have expected, obviously Ascent has never been rotated. I would expect that to be ahead of Split. I would also probably expected Lotus to be ahead of Split as well.
Yeah.
Like, if I was guessing an order of the maps, because Lotus has been around, for a while now and hasn't been rotated out. So, I was thinking maybe that was a possibility, but I'm sad. I like Split. Split definitely will come back. See, we're saying about Breeze, but Split will come back. There's no way they bench Split forever, because it's a good enough map to not be that way. Surely, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Split is I think it's a little bit polarizing in like ranked, because it can be very difficult, even though it's kind of like trended to being an attack side map in pro scenes on like bad ranked elo games, it can be just a nightmare. It's like, well, guess we're going down 2-10 on the attack side again. You know, like,
hey, let's go defense, guys. Let's go. We got this, guys. Like, yeah, you lose the first 3 rounds on split attack side, and it can get tough quick.
Yeah,
that definitely is the case. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but I mean, that being said, it is. I mean, in my opinion, it's maybe in the top 3, maybe the top 2 of best pro maps to watch. I think it
100%.
It is very very good at delivering bangers, good comebacks, and also it's in a spot where I think it's one of the only maps where the sky nerf hasn't really been felt yet, and I kind of wish that we give it a little bit more time, like till the end of the year, for teams to develop the new meta on the map, because I think we're still kind of seeing like, is double duelist good, is sky good, is breach good, is KO good. The Viper changes are going to affect it as well. Like, what is the actual meta on this map? And right now I kind of feel like there's like 3 or 4 comps that are already vying for which one is the best, and still people are kind of like tweaking. You know, now we're playing the Astra, now we're playing the Omen. So in my opinion, it's kind of a shame that they're removing it as it's still kind of developing. Whereas, like you said, you know, Acend has had the same comp being played for 2.5 years. Lotus has the same comp being played by every single team for the last 1.5 years. These are great options for maybe we should pull them out, you know, give a little bit of a shakeup. But I have to imagine that there's something in their data that's telling people, like, maybe there's just like an outlandishly high number of games that are being dodged in like the menu screen if it's split that comes up or something like that in ranked games. Who knows? But yeah, kind of sad to see it go, like you said.
It's interesting the point you bring up though, because I mean, I've made a second stats video. I won't spoil all of it, but I talk about the split meta. Like, that is an interesting thing to me, because like the Sentinels comp that they're running, you know, that plays like solo Sky still with Cypher Viper, like that comp is doing pretty well. But other than in that comp, Sky is really struggling as like anywhere else that plays Sky. Like most of the Sky comps aren't doing that well. And I did think that was interesting, because Fade comps are doing the other way, right? Like Fade's doing really well. So I was, you know, I'm going to bring up in that video like a point of like, oh, I wonder if a team would try, you know, like the Sentinels comp, but with Fade instead of Sky, and, you know, kind of a Lotus type style, you know, where we play with like no flash, and see how that would do, because, you know, like statistically in terms of the win rates of different agents, Fade's doing really well, Sky's doing really bad. So yeah, I still think there was room to develop there. It does make me wonder as well, with like you were talking about, you know, the data dodging and stuff like that. Like maybe ranked games, maybe we don't see how bad it is, right? Maybe it is like truly like, oh my god, look, the split defense side win rate is like 60% or something, right? Like this map's broken. You know, it could be stuff like that as well that obviously we don't have access to and don't know. But yeah, it's sad for split. I would obviously, and actually one thing I want to point out as well is when it comes to balancing agents, right? We know that it comes from like a top-down perspective, you know, of if an agent is like Viper, right? Like if it's broken at pro play, you know, even if Viper is okay and ranked, right? Then unlucky, your agent's good in pro play, so it's getting nerfed, right? They bounce from top down. But clearly with the maps, in terms of like the map rotations, it doesn't seem to be like, well, what's best for pro play? It seems to be more like what's best for ranked, right? I think that's where they seem to be coming from this, because obviously for pro play you would say like, oh, rotate Acend, right? Like obviously rotate Acend, like it's the most stale, boring pro play meta,
but everybody loves playing Acend in ranked.
But in ranked it's good, so it probably is just like a different reaction there. But yeah, overall,
one last point I want to say about the maps, one last positive point about Breeze before we bid it adieu, is that I think it was the perfect map for the chamber meta to happen on. It was a good chamber map, and it allowed chamber to really kind of like showcase how powerful the agent was. And I think that was like maybe the best map to kind of like show what chamber can do as an agent, and then kind of like introduced him to like, okay, we should be playing this on like every map at this point.
Yeah, and look, the map pool, like in my opinion, the map pool literally couldn't get worse, other than like removing fucking split for Pearl or something. Like we were pretty much as close as could be to the worst map pool you could actually pick. So any change is good change, and if the new map is good, hopefully, let's pray, God, please don't give us another bad map. Let's pray that the new map is good, and if it is, then Haven's back. Haven's good. At least every so often you'll get a Haven, and that'll be good, and you'll feel good. So that's good. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about agent changes and stuff like that. So you wanted to bring up here that the devs mentioned that buffing agents can be difficult because the skill of the players is increasing, which allows for greater depth to be pulled from the existing agents. I actually made a reaction video to the dev diary stuff, and one part that I think I actually cut out that I was talking about was that they might need to just continually nerf things. Right, and we've seen this already, right? Just in terms of the amount of utility available across the board, right? Like ults, right? Going from 7 to 9, right? Like just like across the board. Yeah, like, but they might need to just keep doing this, right? Because we've talked about it before that like the mechanical skill of the game, right? Just like the gunplay mechanical skill, that side is probably getting close to like almost a peak. Right, because it's not the most mechanically, like when you hear pros talk about it, they say, mechanically it's not the most difficult game, in terms of gunplay, but in terms of like agent abilities and timing it and coordinating with your team, there's still so much room to grow, right? To where like in 3 years' time, it will be a different game in terms of those things. The aim might still probably look somewhat similar, but in those areas it'll probably look very different to it is now. So they might need to continually bring it down and bring it down, because as they spoke about in the video, like, Valorant is a game that's trying to like spin different plates, right? It's not just the abilities, it's the gunplay as well, and how you interact with the map as well. Like, it's not just Overwatch where the abilities are all you've got. And so yeah, they might need to keep bringing it down as people get better and better and better, to be honest. So I would suspect that might be the case, but I still do think they can do more in terms of buffing as well.
Do you think we'll ever get to a point where they feel it is necessary to like drastically impact the economy of the game, where it's like you have to choose between buying utility or guns a lot of the time? Because right now it's like there's like a pretty basic cycle where it's like, pistol, certain agents are just like classic and all of their utility. Other agents are like ghost plus like key piece of utility. And then from then on, usually it's like full utility plus rifle, unless you lose, in which case it's like, pistol. So you can, on the next round, go full utility plus rifle. But if you think about a game like Counter-Strike, a lot of the time it's like we have to maybe save twice to be able to have a full buy plus full utility. Or we really do have to make a choice where it's only one flash or one smoke plus a gun, or we go with weaker weapons and get multiple pieces of utility.
That's a tough one. I don't think, because obviously we're playing 1st to 13 as well, I think that comes into it, that you don't want to have like multiple saves in a row when there's fewer rounds. That's not something that you really want to have to do a lot of the time. And I also think because it is like a hero based game, right, where each character is different, you want people to be able to express themselves
with the utility,
with the utility. So I'm not sure they'll go that extreme with it, but I do think like I still think, and I would be, I'm pretty sure Riot probably are aware of this as well, that like, again, if you got a supercomputer like to solve Valorant like it did chess, there is no way it would not play light shields every single round. Like, especially with how people interact with the game. And the Outlaw is like one little tool that they use to try and fix it. But if they're going to change anything about the economy in this game, it's going to be about light shields, because light shields are so broken, and people, I cannot believe any pro team is not doing light shields. It boggles my mind. It boggles my mind with how much the Outlaw is bought versus how much money you could save from just buying light shields all the time. It literally hurts my brain. It hurts my brain, because there's just no way that it's not correct to always do it. And you should do it in your ranked games as well. I promise you.
Absolutely, in ranked you'll have like twice as many rifle buys. Yeah, 100%.
I promise you it's the way to go. It's so beneficial to even if you do it and no one else on your team does. It's so beneficial to you. So beneficial. Please do it. Please do it.
Funny tangent. So OpenAI obviously making huge waves in the AI world. Several years ago.
What's OpenAI?
Several years ago, the company that now is known for ChatGPT started off as like this little tiny startup, and one of the things that they trained their AI to do was to play Dota 2, because it was seen as a much more difficult game to play than chess or like Go or whatever. And the AI, first they trained it in 1v1, and there was like a 1v1 mid mode that it was like, this is like kind of like the skill expression of like an aim duel basically. And so the AI model beat every single top pro and like annihilated them. And the way that it played the 1v1 actually changed how all pro players approached the mid matchup in 5v5 pro matches. Like they literally, the AI taught them how to play mid better. And then a couple years later, they had it learn to play 5v5 with like a limited hero pool. And it again, like, was stomping pro teams in 5v5 matches. A lot of it was because of mechanical skill, but they also, it also had optimized how it played the game in a way where it was just like this specific type of like death ball that always, they were like ferrying themselves out like regen resources and foregoing like late game in the quest to basically just like snowball the game super early. And it made it really, really difficult for the pro teams to deal with it because they were trying to play like this bigger macro game, and the AI was like, no, we're going to optimize like just pushing down middle, keep funneling resources into like one or two characters, make sure that like we have the snowball going. And then it took a while for the pro teams to figure out how to beat it. It was not quite as impactful as the 1v1 model was, but it was interesting to be like, okay, well, if a computer is trying to optimize for a specific like reward path of like, if you win the game, like this is how it approaches it. It is very different how it is like much different than like the human interpretation of it.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And it always will be, right? Because it's solely focused on one thing. And and yeah, I would kill to see. I would be so interested to see what it would do with Valorant. Right, I would be so interested to see, because there's so many different things that I think like, oh, maybe it would do this. Like when you're saying that, I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it would just on attack side, play like a PaperX Lotus comp and just double Duelist, just dive in and just say, hey, we're just gonna on attack side, our goal is just to get the spike down and play postman. That's all. Yeah. That's all we need to do, and I'm just gonna focus on a comp that does that all the time. Right? Yeah. There's a part of me that thinks that. There's a part of me that thinks, oh, maybe we try and like just whatever has the most refreshable utility, right? Like it would play Gecko all the time and just util, like every 10 seconds, right? And two completely different approaches, but in my mind they make sense for like, oh, I wonder what the computer would do. Anyway, tangent. We're coming back. Let's talk about actual nerfs. So Raze is getting a nerf. Thank God. Needs to happen. Needs, capital N, needs to happen. They said satchel nerfs. Now, I was a bit... I was a bit like, ooh, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Satchel nerfs? I'm a little worried about this one. A little worried.
Because I really don't want them to nerf like how far you can go with satchels.
Yep.
I think that would suck. But I do want them to nerf like how many things a satchel can do. I don't think it should be able to mess up your crosshair, and I don't think it should be able to, get you off a spike plant. Those things, I think, get rid of them, and I don't care. Right? Like, good. That's a good change, in my opinion.
But they
so,
specifically
what do you think?
mentioned Raze satchel movement, which it's like, okay, so what does that mean? Are they going to take away the second satchel, which is drastically...
Oh, that would be fucking crazy.
It would be crazy. And this is one of those things where it's like, the difference between pro play and ranked play is so important to balance here, because it's like we probably still haven't even seen the maximum skill expression with this ability, because it requires like insanely good kind of like surf, like CS surf, like strafe jump type of mechanics that are very, very hard to master and requires a lot of time to maximize like how good you can be at it. And in some sense, it's like, if you remove that, then you kind of kill the agent, and obviously Raze has so many good things, like the nade is good, and the rocket is good, and the boombot is good, and the satchels are good, but the satchels are what makes the agent fun to play. Yes, the rocket launcher is fun, and the nade is kind of cool, but the satchels are really what make the agent unique, but they also are what make the agent overpowered. So where is that balance? Like, if you make it so you can only go forward with them, again, that kills the agent, because the ability to kind of like change directions in midair is what makes it cool. And and to be able to like play with how much velocity you have based off of how far you drop and like where the satchel explodes in your movement arc. And so, God, I kind of hope they don't do that. You know, I kind of hope they like just heavily hit something else, like make it so a nade doesn't actually fully kill somebody. I would rather see them do that than to change the satchel movement in any way.
That would genuinely be a better change. Yeah, 100%. Like I say, like to me, I would if it was me on the balance team, I would suggest like let's just have the Raze satchel only move Raze. You know, you can't. No one else moves when a satchel, right? So you can't crosshair. Like then it becomes like a one-use ability. It doesn't become nearly as flexible, but at least you keep that fun element, right? Like the fun element is still there, right? And you keep that. I think that would be a much better change because again, it would definitely affect pro play. Be a sizable nerf, but it wouldn't kill the agent for like, you know, no one would be screaming like, oh my Raze main, I'm dead, I'm never playing Raze again. Like no, you'd be like, oh no, I can't knock someone off the spike. I know the crosshair one is pretty big, you know, when you just like take a fight and throw a satchel at them, but that's a nerf, right? Good.
Yeah. Nerf. God, I mean, I guess my biggest problem with this is that Raze is like one of the few agents that truly rewards putting in hours and hours and hours to mastering the mechanics of the agent. And it's like if you just start taking away like the time investment aspect, it's like why even care about what agent you're playing, right? Just play something boring that is like one button and I escape. I'd rather play an agent that rewards me for putting in
you don't like time. Chamber?
I mean, I find every agent in the game to be fun for different reasons, honestly. Like there's basically no agent in this game that I don't enjoy playing, and that's good, but also they're good for different reasons. I don't know. I just really hope that they're super delicate with this, because if you start doing stuff where it's like every agent that rewards you for getting really good at the agent gets nerfed because people are getting really good at the agent, then it kind of ruins the game, you know? Yeah. But also they talked about this in the dev diaries, which is like they're very careful about the buffs to agents because, you know, imagine people aren't playing Raze because the movement's really, really hard, and then all of a sudden they give her some buffs, and then people get good at the movement, and now she's an insane agent, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened with Viper, is that people just didn't understand how to use Viper, right? They didn't understand how to use Viper, and so they buffed Viper, and then people learned how to use Viper, and it's like, oh no, this is a huge problem.
Yeah, this is a problem. Yeah, that's never. I think they are aware that like, oh, we need to be careful because they were definitely in the headspace of like, no one's playing this agent. Let's just make this agent a lot better. And then 2 years down the line, even when they gave one round of significant nerfs to Viper, was still in a problem. And even after the second round of significant nerfs, I still think Viper is one of the best agents in the game. So anyway, let's talk about ISO. ISO is going to get buffed. Good. They said a shield buff. They also said that they were getting minor other buffs. The buff that I really wanted to happen, and someone suggested this in my Twitch chat, and ever since I've just been like, that would be a cool change, is have the ult be if ISO dies in the ult, he doesn't die. I think that would be a great change.
That's insanely powerful, though.
Yeah.
That's so powerful.
Good. Yeah. It's like a Phoenix ult.
Yeah, I guess, except you lock somebody in place. You lock somebody in place so they can't
have a good ult. Oh, woe is me. ISO gets a good ult.
Yeah.
Good idea. Have it happen. Don't care. He's getting shield buffs. I do wonder if they're just going to take away the
aim lab part.
Yeah, the aim labs part. I think that they might, and just say like, if you kill someone when the ability's active,
reduce the timer that you have. Maybe it's only like 15 seconds or something like that. That would make more sense. And honestly, it would kind of help his play pattern, where it's like his goal is to be like a multi-fragger, right? That's kind of why they designed him, is like you're supposed to be able to get a kill, you know, get your shield, take a duel with the advantage, kill another person. It could become too powerful, where if you're really good,
might be a problem,
so maybe they cap it at like a maximum of like 2
or
something like that.
Like one charge. That I doubt. If they do that, I think they'll only give him one charge. To be honest, because I think 2 would be too strong at that point. But that's happening. And then Neon will get slide buff. Now this one was interesting. I was trying to think. I was trying to think like, what would you do? And the only thing I could think of really is that like when you're sliding, like you break trips and you can't be hit by like nano swarms and
global
stuff.
utility or something like that.
Yeah, I don't really know what exactly that would be unless you could slide for. Oh, imagine if you could slide forever.
What if you could slide like double the length? Would that
Yeah,
it
and
basically
like you
gives
could
you a
cancel it.
dash?
Imagine if you could slide, but then like cancel it as well, right? So
Yeah.
you have like a longer slide animation, you cancel it. That would be kind of cool. But yeah, that one's gonna be interesting. Don't know what, but neon buff, give it to me.
Yeah.
I'm in for a neon buff. Give me a good juicy neon buff.
I mean,
I'm ready for it.
I don't know if you've seen some of the neon streamers, but the stuff that they're doing with movement is unbelievable. Like neon truly is the next Raze potential if people put in the time.
Yes.
And nobody's really put in the time.
Yeah.
And I would be fine if they buffer a bit to the point where people really want to put in that time, because if we end up in a spot where neon is just truly dominating the meta, it would be kind of a cool thing to happen.
Yes. That's why I kind of thought it was a bit weird, honestly, that they're buffing the slide. I would have thought that they would buff the other parts of the, like the stun, the wall, like, I thought they might have buffed those parts because those aren't going to become a problem. And like you're saying, like, with people who have mastered neon, like if the movement is buffed even more, like they could become just impossible to play against.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas, you buff the wall, you buff the stuns, it's like, it's a buff, but it's not going to be broken down the line most likely. So we'll see what goes on with that. And then Reyna. Oh, let's talk about Reyna.
Yeah, let's talk about exactly what they said, because this is an interesting take that they
have. So they said that Reyna is going to get changed, let's use that word, in a way that makes her better for pro play and premier and team, like, dynamic play, but worse for ranked.
Yeah,
it's basically what they said right there. Now, my guess in my initial reaction video to this was like, I guess you buff the flash and you nerf how much you can dismiss for or heal for.
Yeah,
but I don't know exactly how you would go about that. What are your thoughts on what this means?
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe the flash will have some sort of like info tool to it, where maybe it's kind of like I don't know whether it would be like a fade eye type trail thing, or
I think they might make it not breakable. Honestly, I think they might just say like it's a Reyna flash.
That would be insane.
Yeah, it would be. But then if you nerf like, but that's like what you need to make her good for pro play.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that makes her annoying in ranked is that if there's somebody who's much better than everybody else in the lobby on Reyna, it's that the mechanics enable you to exploit the fact that people are bad at trading, right? Yeah. That's the main problem in ranked, is that people take a lot of 1v1s and Reyna punishes 1v1 better than any other agent in the game. And so how do you change player behavior? Like,
Yeah, like I said, like unless you make the dismiss like a lot shorter, so you can only dismiss like a very small amount away, or the healing doesn't heal you back to full health. You only get like a certain amount of healing max, like those kind of things could help, and like especially if a dismiss was like really short and you really couldn't go that far away with it, like that would help in ranked. And as I said, you would need to offset that with a pretty significant Leah buff, but I can't really think of what else they could do, to be honest, because it's so difficult, because two of Reyna's abilities are like tied to being good in ranked, but not that useful in pro play, right? Because you need to get a kill first, and anytime you need to get a kill first in pro play, like that's not what you want, right? You want your utility to set up the first kill, not I need to have it to do something. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm worried, honestly. I'm worried that like whatever thing they buff Reyna for is gonna just be outweigh what the nerfs are, and Reyna will just be incredibly impossible to play against in ranked. And then ISO buffs as well. Like, who knows, right? We just end up with like ISO Reyna
solo players.
Yeah. Oh my god, just ISO Reyna, then add in like a neon just jumping around and you can't hit them. Like,
here's a take from chat. The solution would be to make Reyna good in pro play and remove her from ranked. It's just an unpickable agent in ranked.
It's a good idea though. Like honestly, like for the way the game has been,
how are you supposed to practice her then?
Don't matter. Don't care. I have stood on this hill for a while. The game would legitimately be better without Reyna. Like, it would actually be a better experience. And I don't say that as someone, obviously I don't play Reyna and stuff like that, and I know some people would be sad. I don't care. Right? Going like ISO is the healthy version of Reyna, in my opinion. Like, even though ISO, isn't very good, like, even if ISO gets better and, they buff him, which they will, like, just his overall kit and design is just Reyna, but better, right? Where it's not, anyway, let's just move on. So they said they're not going to make any more major agent adjustments until after champs. I mean, makes sense. They said if something was really broken, they would, which again, just makes sense, right? Like, and I pointed this out as well in my video that, like, this, they clearly have made, like, now that we're in a partnership system and they know when the tier 1 events and tournaments are happening, this is what the calendar is based on now. In fact, I mean, they probably won't because of the battle pass, but, like, it used to obviously be around acts, right? That, like, if we came to an end of an act, a new agent comes out, and but that wasn't lined up with the VCT calendar, right? That was just whenever the act end. But now, Clove comes out on a random patch after Masters Madrid. This new map is going to come out on a random patch after Masters Shanghai. Like, this is what it's going to be. Clearly, the VCT schedule is now being baked into kind of, the calendar of changes. So, yeah, after champs off season, there'll be a big change. I suspect probably every year after the second Masters around this time, there'll be some kind of major change, map rotation, that kind of stuff, just to, like, freshen things up so we can kind of half the year, with one map pool, half the year with another map pool with some major changes in between, like, would make sense, I think, as well.
Yep.
So, yeah. And then the replay system. Now, we finally got to is this the first time we've seen any
actual real assets, from the replay system?
What did you make of it? What did you think about what they said?
So, I mean, I have to preface this with, I know absolutely nothing about game design. I have never coded anything other than, like, basic HTML 10-15 years ago in college. So I have no idea. But to me, the way that it was presented, it sounded like a lot of the stuff in the game, the assets and stuff, was kind of, like, made and, like, maybe rushed into the game to some extent to, like, get the game ready to play. Because now, as they go back and they kind of audit the way that things were coded, they're finding a lot of bugs, basically, is what's happening. And I think we've seen a little bit of that in the past with, like, this texture is missing and now there's a camera that can see through it, or these skins provide wall hack randomly. How did that happen? And so, I think there's always these bugs. And having seen other games with replay systems, like Fortnite has a replay system, obviously all the Valve games have replay systems, and the way that the replay systems work is sometimes there will be random bugs. The way that assets render, when you, like, rewind the game 50 times to look at, like, this small little, like, frame by frame thing, sometimes things will render incorrectly, and I don't know why that happens, but it seems like that's kind of what's happening a bit in this game. So I guess my hope is that they don't try to make it too perfect and they just give us the tools as soon as possible, because I think that would be better. Obviously, they don't want to put out something super unpolished. And some of it is kind of important, like the examples that Riot knew, or Marcus Reed, who's the kind of like the tech lead on Valorant, was talking about, were stuff where it's like, it is kind of important to know whether the smoke is down now or whether it's coming 100%. Down later, right? Because, like, if you die at this certain point and you think it's because you peaked too early, but then the replay renders it later and you're like, oh, it's like bad confirmation bias, right? So you do have to have certain things that are correct. Stuff like the door being up in the air is kind of funny, and it's like, okay, well, whatever. I don't care about that so much, but
but the Brim one,
like properly rendering flashes, properly rendering stuff, like being detected by recons, that type of stuff is really important. But having a free cam, and I assume there will also be POV of each player, hopefully, those two things, very important. Get them to us as soon as possible, please. Please, I beg of you. The free cam stuff is going to be very cool for content creation, because you're going to be able to do, like, cinematic shots of, like, executes and that type of stuff, which will be very helpful.
Yes, very helpful indeed. One thing that when he was talking about it, that I was thinking was, like, when he's talking about auditing, like, you know, all the thousands of assets and stuff, I bet one problem that they've had as well is like when you release the replay system, what happens when a new agent comes out? You know, like what happens, you know, like post the replay system coming out, like how does it deal with new content as well?
Does it
right?
break
Like
a bunch of stuff just by having
yes.
Yeah.
Like, and I bet that that's a big headache for them of like, we can't release this yet because as soon as we release a new agent or a new map, it's just gonna break. Like everything that we've worked on is just gonna be like broken for that map or for that agent, and like it's gonna be completely useless. So yeah, I can assume that coming up with a system that not only works for what's in the game, but like can withstand a bunch of new stuff coming in as well. Like I can imagine that would be a challenge, considering the way they were talking about it. But yeah. Probably no replay system.
It's not going to be maybe at the end of next year. Maybe.
Yes, maybe. I think that's probably like the earliest it would probably be. Is
one
probably
thing
something
I will say it's a little bit worrying to me is they basically as they were explaining the replay stuff, they were like some of the stuff is harder because we didn't plan on. Like that, yes. There's like some verbiage of like some of the stuff is harder to deal with because we didn't plan on it being an issue, or like we didn't plan it. I was like, but surely if it attacks you, you're planning on a replay system, and so you know, props for them having these assets. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, but also I can't give them a free pass on like not planning for this thing to be part of the game.
Yeah, that's tough. And I swear to God, in like last year's version of this video, which I think came out either after lock-in or before lock-in, I swear they were talking about the game coming out on other platforms as well. Like, and so, like, if you're like talking about, you know, you're working on a replay system, you're talking about, you know, and obviously we know about Valorant Mobile and stuff like that, but maybe even console as well, right? If like that's what they're working on, like that's like big, like the biggest of the big time projects, right? Of like releasing it on other platforms and your replay system, like technical wise, like, you know, that technical department must be working overtime to do all of that, because that must be a lot of work.
So much bug like QA stuff has to be done. Just like endless hours.
Oh my God, that would be awful.
Running scenarios and making sure stuff is not breaking.
Yes. Anyway, shall we move on to VCT? Shall we talk about the pro side of the game? Let's do it.
We're not into the preview of Shanghai yet. There's lots of news.
There's quite a bit of news to talk about, first of all. So, first thing on the docket here is that PaTiTeK is standing in for Heretics. This is what we expected, but wasn't announced when we did last week's episode. And yeah, you assume that Woot will go to Duelist. Patty will play his old role on the team. How much of a problem issue do you see this being, or do you think Heretics will be relatively the same?
So I think the change of bringing PaTiTeK in should be like about as good as you could possibly ask for as a stand-in. My one thing is that I think that people will probably look at this and be like, oh, well, they played with PaTiTeK at Madrid and did very well, so maybe they're even like a top 3 team now, just because it's not really that big of a stand-in. But I think that people are underestimating the impact that Miniboo has as like a vibes guy, and also just as like the kind of like the instigator, the facilitator for their entire attack. You know, the defense maybe it will be a little bit easier to play, but for their attack, it's like so important for Miniboo to be this guy. And we know that Woot is crazy good. We know that he's like very, very skilled. But we've also seen what changing from Victor being entry to Demon 1 being entry can do to a team. And just like the way that somebody paths the kind of like moment to moment decision making to be like, I need to be aggressive now, or I need to make this play happen. Miniboo is one of the most instinctual players in the entire game right now, as far as like, this needs to happen right now, I'm making this play. And just because Woot might have the same level of mechanics and aim as Miniboo doesn't mean that he has the same brain and same decision making. And so I actually think that people will be overrating Heretics because they think it's going to be an easy transition. And I think that they might struggle because it's going to change drastically how they function as a team.
Yeah, definitely could do. I think they also aren't like I don't know. Are they even there yet? Like, because their game got moved, right? I'm not making that up. They changed the schedule, right? To have Foot's game go first. Because
Yes.
some of Heretics were struggling to get there. So, assuming that that's the case, how much would they even have practiced?
Yeah.
Right. Like they can't have even have practiced that much if they aren't getting it. In fact, I saw the tweet from G2 that was like, I think a couple hours ago of like, oh, we just arrived. I'm like, what? What do you mean you just arrived? Like, the games are like in a couple of days. What do you mean?
G2 have been there for a couple of days. I know that for.
Okay.
I know
okay.
Good. I don't know what their Twitter's doing, but they've definitely been there for a couple of days.
Okay. Good.
But yeah, I mean for all we know, PaTiTeK has been scrimming with a tier 2 team and playing with your tier 2 team or something, like trialing, ever since he got released by Heretics up until like 2 days ago or whatever. And I'm sure it probably last minute getting him situated and over there. It's probably been a nightmare for the Heretics staff. Yes, is probably what's been happening. There is some chance that they have one of those like no pressure Paper X with CGRS runs. That's always possible. But my intuition says that they are going to have a rough tournament.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more about Heretics later on. But also we have some coach news from EMEA. 2 coaches get let go mid-season, which I think is a shock anyway. I don't know why, but I just always assume like a coach, you wouldn't change coach until the end of the season. I just assumed that was kind of.
But in pro sports, the coach change
mid-season
is the way. Like it's never the players that get fired or benched. It's always the coach that goes first. So it is interesting. Yeah,
it is interesting how that works. But yeah, it seems more rare. But anyway, Doombros is out of NAVI. Salah is out of Vitality. We know that the assistant coach, is it Latex? Is that how you say that?
Latex for NAVI, yeah.
Is taking over NAVI. I don't think have Vitality announced 2 their new coaches.
I'm pretty sure it's just Gorilla stepping in as head coach. I don't know if it was ever like officially announced, but I think it was. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
That's like widely regarded.
Okay, so both basically just assistant coaches becoming head coaches now. Look, when it comes to coaches, it's like, again, this is just, we were talking about it before the episode started. Like, it's very difficult to know how much a coach does, how important a coach is for a team. And why they will let go, right? It's very difficult to know. It could be as simple as, a disagreement on the direction of, where the team should go, things they should try, right? Maybe they wanted to make a roster change, but the team was like, no, we don't want to make a roster change, right? It could be anything. It could be because, they didn't think the coach was doing well enough, whatever, right? Like there are many reasons why a coach might leave a team. And we don't know the reasons why, so I don't think there's much point in speculating. The assistant coach is taking over for both teams. Again, it's just hard to know. Are they good coaches? I don't know. I could not tell you. I couldn't tell you if they're good coaches or not. Right? Who knows? Who knows how it'll go?
Yeah,
it's difficult to know.
I think the best way that I've learned to evaluate coaches is whether like the talent seems to continually get better over the course of a season. Is maybe like the most reliable way. Like you look at Oxygen, for example, with Bonkar in NA tier 2, and it's like every single time we see this team, they seem to be a little bit better than they were in the past, and they've just gotten better. Maybe that's just because they've been playing together for longer, but the coach is part of that. And so it's like you look at some of these other coaches, and the team has been at the same level forever with the same roster. Or
you want to know my conspiracy theory?
What's that?
My conspiracy theory is that Potter just intentionally throws at the start of a season with some awful comps. So that then as the team then improves when they start playing more normal comps, and start doing better, everyone goes, wow, Potter, done it again. It again. Look,
she's doing currency deflation of the team.
But really she just knows like, hey, if I throw at the start of the season, everyone's gonna be like, whoa, they improved so much by the end of the year.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that's my conspiracy. But I'm onto you, Potter. I can see it. I'm onto you. I see you playing Deadlock on Icebox, first week. I see you. Yeah, but that's the coaching news. Let's just move on to things we can actually talk about.
Why do they call it benched, by the way? Why do they say benched the coach? I've never seen that verbiage ever. I don't think you're benching your coach. I'm pretty sure you're just firing your coach.
Yes. Yeah. We should start using that harsher. Let's start saying fire. We fired them. They're gone.
But I mean, really, like, are they
I don't know.
benching the
You can't
coach is
bench a
just
coach.
sitting there
No,
in practice,
you
and
can't
like
bench a
the
coach.
new
Yeah.
head coach is still coaching, and the guys who's been demoted is just sitting there being like,
Yeah, he's just
well,
on Valorant on his own.
ridiculous.
Anyway, Monyet, our boy, Monyet, has signed to a team, RRQ.
Yep.
Now, as soon as Monyet was kind of let go from PaTiTeK, I'm pretty sure everyone was kind of like, oh, RRQ would be a good spot to go. And here we are, Monyet to RRQ. Thoughts? Let me have them.
So I mean, he gets to go join several other countrymen with Zafiro and Lemimore.
Onyx G lives on.
Yeah, Onyx G. And yeah, I mean, it's basically who was the player that was demoted before he joined? Do you remember? I can't remember what their last
was. Flips, right?
Oh, Flips. Okay. I mean, basically, we know how good Monyet can be, even when he's maybe not in the most comfortable system like PaTiTeK. He was still good. Like, we saw him get better in that system, and he still had pretty good production here and there. We saw him be insane on global. It just seems like a clear firepower consistency upgrade for this team. I don't know what role he'll play because Jemkin's the main duelist, and it's probably better if Monyet is not playing the main duelist because he's got a lot of again, firepower, to use this word, that can be put into a different role, like smokes, for example, and then you get a huge amount of value out of that role as well. So it should be a pretty good change for this team and allow them to maybe punch at the same level as some of the top teams in the league.
Yeah, if I had to guess, he'll probably play smokes, and Estrella, who I think was playing mostly smokes for them, I think we'll go to Initiator. I'm just looking at his VLR page. Yeah, he's played, like, his most played agent is Breach, and his second most is KO all time. But in the last like 90 days, it's been Omen Viper. So yeah, I would assume he's gonna probably play like a secondary Initiator for them, and Monyet's gonna go to smokes, and then yeah, it should make sense. So yeah, I think he'll do pretty well. And RRQ, I think, are already starting from like a decent spot, right? It's not like they're like right down there. They're already what did they go in the season, RRQ? What was their record here?
3-3.
Yeah, were they 3-3, something like that? So yeah, they're starting from like an okay baseline. So if they can improve, yeah, they're actually 3-2.
3-2.
So yeah, 3-2. So yeah, they're in a good spot already. To make playoffs for champs and whatever with that record. So yeah, if they can get better, and I think Monyet, this will just be a good spot for Monyet because there's now like, you never want to be the guy who's replacing Jing. You just don't. You don't want to be the guy that's replacing the guy. You want to be like, he's in now a spot where there'll be significantly less eyes and significantly less pressure. On a roll probably where there's less pressure as well. Like, and we saw it last year on Global. The guy can play. Like, he can play.
Good.
And we saw it in flashes of PaTiTeK as well. He can play. He is a tier 1 player. So good for you, Monyet. I look forward to still saying Monyet anytime you do something crazy. Speaking of maybe a bit crazy, Team Secret are making 2 roster changes.
Yep.
And again, this is another team that, like, what were they in the regular season? I think they were like 3-3 as well, right? Yeah, they were 3-3. So like, not in a bad spot, but 2 roster moves. They're getting rid of they released Borkum and benched NDG. I mean, again, I don't know what to think. Go on, tell me what to think.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the main thing about Secret is, like, they made playoffs and then they got O2'd by T1, which is kind of surprising. I think both you and I picked them to beat T1. And it was almost like a regression to the mean for them, where like, we've seen them be good and then sometimes they're bad, but this season they've been more good and then they just kind of went back to being like mediocre. And I think there's one thing I do know about this team, which is that Jeremy and Envy are very good. These 2 players are very, very good. They are tier 1 players. Borkum he's always been kind of like a supportive player, but he's definitely like maybe the lowest in terms of firepower, in terms of kill output, other than Jesse Vash, who's the IGL. So you're not going to replace him unless you're like fully overhauling the team. And then NDG he's just kind of been a guy on the team. He's never been like a standout. Yes, this guy, you hit his sight, you shouldn't hit his sight. He's going to kill 3 people every time you go. He's just kind of been like the sentinel guy that's there and doing the sentinel role.
Yeah. He started off really rough. He did get better.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was never like, oh my God, like, wow.
Yeah. And so I think they realize that they're just at this place that they've kind of been for the last couple of years, which is that they're getting to the playoffs, they're getting into contention, but then when they run into the DRXs, the PaTiTEKs, the teams that have like really good players at every spot, they kind of just get diffed. And like, it's very hard to win the game when you're just always at like a firepower disadvantage every single time you get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe particularly with NDG, you could have maybe made the argument like, hey, he's improving, he's gonna just keep getting better, and then he'll be good, by the time by the end of the season or whatever. But you can't fault a team really, like you're saying, like Team Secret can like 4th place, getting to champs, like getting 4th place in Pacific, like is easily within reach, right? Like even if obviously you think like PaTiTEK, Genji. Probably like DRX. I think T1 are frauds, honestly. Like that 4th spot is for champs is up for grabs. Yes. Absolutely wide open in Pacific. Anyone
could do it.
You have to go
take it. You have to be able to go take it. Yeah.
So maybe that's what they're looking at. It's like, hey, we can do this if we get and maybe look, if they get the signings really right, like you said, like then you have like a team with Jeremy. Envy, and like if you can get 2 other players who are really good, then you'll forget 4th place, you're then pushing like up there, right? And you can be an actual contender. So
to your NDG point, they put him on their reserve, so he's going to be their sub, and maybe we'll continue to develop him. Like you said, he was getting better. Borkum is fully released, so yeah.
There is okay. You know what, I had a thought the other day, like, and people say like, there are still people out there. There are still people out there who claim that, like, oh, partnerships was a mistake and all this. But I was thinking about like a couple of years ago, and I was thinking about like how I felt like I was the only person from the Western world who watched any Pacific games. like I remember making a video about PaTiTEK before they went to Reykjavik.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, so when then PaTiTEK popped off, and I made a video about them being the guard, everyone was like, "Oh, you were ahead on PaTiTEK." Like, "Oh, you knew, bro, you knew." Like, like all this kind of stuff. But now, like looking at it now, right? Like we can talk about Team Secret, and like everyone who's watching this, like they know, right? Like they know what we're talking. They know who we're talking about. They know what we're talking about. Whereas if you would have talked about Team Secret 2 years ago, no one would know. No one would care, honestly.
Who's on the team?
Yeah, no one would know or care, most likely, right? Which I just think it's cool. It's cool. It's cool that, we're all like in this thing, we have these teams that we know now. Anyway, complete detour.
Absolute shilling from TMV for Riot's ecosystem. All right, well, we got to pay the bills. I understand.
Riot don't pay me anything. They don't pay me a single cent. Okay. Well, we're about to get into the Brazilian rumor mill.
Let's get down and dirty.
Yeah, I didn't even see this. I don't know where you've seen this, but Zhand was released as a foot streamer, which was a weird signing anyway, I would say.
Yeah. Why was a Brazilian player signed to a Turkish team as a streamer?
I don't know. But Zhand gets released as a foot streamer, back to pro play, ? You've put, and then, whilst we're here, we might as well add into this, Pancada's been rumored, I think, to go to every Brazilian team.
Yes.
At this point. And QCK has also been released from Loud, so hey, Pancada, and by the way, if Pancada goes to Loud, the reporting around the other teams has been like, oh, he can't play for Furia and MIBR for health reasons. His health just isn't good enough. So if he ends up going to Loud, that would just be funny, because it's like, oh, those health issues. Sadek is he is literally a saint. He's got healing power.
Man. Yeah. I mean, the way that it was worded is that there was actual contract on the table for Pancata to sign to go to Furia, and then he was like, I don't know about that. I have health problems. And so that to me, it just seems like one of those things. How is this like health problem become the way that people are like manipulating themselves out of rosters constantly? Oh, there's a health issue here. Well, guess you gotta be released, and then immediately back to pro play like a month later. I feel like this stuff happens constantly in this game. It's very
like
strange.
The thing is for Pancata as well. Like, if you reported yourself like, oh, I just said no to Furia because they're shit. Like everyone would be like, yeah, that's completely fair. No one's gonna disagree with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre. I mean, maybe he does have some serious health issues and he won't come back. But then there was like Sodic was on stream in the tournament client, looking at his coaches win and loss in Diamond or something like that, and Pancata was on his friends list and is like, well, I was Pancata in the tournament client, and so who knows? Yeah, who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? But back to the Jandy thing is that, you know, I think everybody was kind of surprised that he was not in a tier 1 team this year, especially considering that a lot of the players that were in tier 1 in the Brazil teams were maybe not, you know, tier 1 players at this point. So he seems like a great target for either Furia or MIBR, who desperately need to improve their teams, I think. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe he'll end up on Loud. Who knows? It is all just rumors basically at this point.
I mean, the Brazilian, you know, people in Brazil complained about the fucking cycle of Brazilian talent. You know, that it's just a closed circuit. I mean, we're not beating those allegations, really, are we?
No,
we're not beating those allegations by bringing back Jean and Pancata, who, like you say, like probably, you know, deserve, like they are good enough to play, you know. So it would make sense, but yeah, the Brazilian scene. I mean, that desperately needs to be like, you know, like in EMEA, right? There's a ton of examples, right, of like upcoming talent that you were like, oh, these guys are really good. You know, like, oh, Miniboo, he's fucking good. Oh, Benji, Jesus, he's good, right? Like, oh, Narrate, look at him, whoa, right? Like, there's been a lot of that in like EMEA. Like, Brazil desperately needs to find like, you know, just a tier 2 player who's like, oh my god, this guy's sick. This guy's insane. Like, they desperately need that, because all of the best Brazilian players, you know, and that's the thing, right? It's not like there is no talent. Like, literally probably the best player in the world and then one of the other best players in the world are both Brazilian. Like, we know there is talent there. There is talent, but it's just like, did we all just discover it in 2021 and then the well is now dry?
Right. There was only 3 good players in Brazil, and they've all been found already. No more to ever be found. One thing I do want to say, you know, since we are kind of doing a bit of a news show, I think it is important to get the news right. The leak about MIBR potentially using their money for a CS team has been confirmed to be wrong.
Yeah, we clowned on them for last week, which I still don't regret because it was funny. But
it was funny. But yeah, I do want to put that out there.
Good for you, MIBR. Good for staying in the league, MIBR. You're back. You're back. Let's go.
Anyway,
get a better team.
yeah. We're still gonna clown on you for being dog shit, but at the least, at the
win
very
a
least,
map, guys. Yeah. Win a map. A map. Even Furia won a map. 2 maps,
right.
I think.
All right, give him a break. Give him a break.
I'll give them a break when they win a map. How about that? DFM won a game, guys. Come on.
Oh boy! All right, moving on before all of Brazil hates this podcast.
Oh no, Brazil agrees with me. There's like they are with me on this one. They are, surely they can't be against me here. They must be with me. Anyway, let's react. Do you have our power rankings up? Do you have them? Is that a thing you can do? I remember at the end of last episode you said like, oh, we'll take a look back in a week. Is that a thing you can access? Our old power rankings?
Give me a second. I will go back to the last episode and find it. Okay. So I need you.
It should be at the end. We did it last, I think.
I need you to fill. You know, be entertaining, streamer, please.
Okay, let's talk about what should we talk about? Let's talk about why didn't they buff Phoenix though? Like for real. Why are we buffing Neon and ISO? But what happened to my boy Phoenix? What
Well,
Phoenix is getting like just because Loud picked him a couple times and
Loud proved that he was good.
They did not. They did not prove that. They proved that Phoenix was not the right choice, and they would have won more games had they just played Raze. And Gentle Mates, what? Gentle Mates are convincing you that Phoenix is good? That's just in a tank, bro. Like, it's got nothing to do with Phoenix. It's just the man playing him. Buff Phoenix. Again, I'll just spout my idea again that I wish that the Phoenix wall could go through walls. I think that then he'd be an interesting agent. I think you could do some creative stuff with that. And that would be cool if that was the case. I understand it doesn't really make sense in terms of, like, does fire go through concrete? Does fire go through concrete? I don't know. I'm not a fireman. I don't know.
I've got our tier list up a little bit off center, but let me.
Okay. Is it over my face?
It's over both of our faces at the moment.
Oh. They want to see your face, I'm sure.
Nobody wants to see that. Okay, so we had PaTiTeK at 1, Fnatic at 2, 100 Thieves at 3, Genji 4, Leviathan 5, EDG 6, Foot 7, G2 8, Heretics 9, FPX 10, T1 11th, and DRG at 12th. I had a lot of people telling me that I was a absolute moron for putting Fnatic in second place, and everybody, as soon as I said anything about PRX not being number 1, people were accusing me of being anti-Pacific, racist, etc., and calling for
racist.
Just standard YouTube comments, basically.
I'm gonna be real with you. I when you read out that list, that's better than I thought. Honestly, that's a better list than I remembered. I look. I think the top 3 is still difficult. I don't really care what order you put those 3 in. To be honest, like, sure, you do you. I'm surprised. Like, you already have kind of hinted at being low on Heretics, so like, and you were ahead of that as well.
Well, this was without knowing who was going to stand in for them.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Would you keep them there, knowing what you know now?
So I mean, I think the biggest thing is that we kind of went on this narrative like EDG home court advantage. Like, yeah, they'll be super hyped to do well. So I think EDG maybe could bump down like 3 slots potentially. We could move maybe G2 and Foot up a little bit, maybe move Heretics up a little bit. I think Lev is also potentially like a little Genji. I think the top 3.
That's the thing. You mentioned those 2 teams, Genji and Lev. Those are my 2 teams that I'm big on. I'm big on Genji. Yeah, I'm starting to see the light, particularly for Genji. I'm feeling good about Genji. I think because to me, like, Genji's big problem is that you can anti-strat them. And their ideas, I think, sometimes are a little, samey and stuff like that. But I think in a tournament format, right, where there's less time to prep in general, I think that will suit Genji, right? That other than the Pacific teams, and obviously like Lev have time to obviously anti-strat them. But after that first game, I think that it will suit them. That they can then just play their game, and the other team won't have had a ton of time to prepare for them, and they don't know that they're going to play Genji because it's a Swiss, right? So there's no one will have done any prep other than Lev on them, and I think that they will benefit greatly. And I'm in on Genji. I was looking at some of their numbers earlier, doing these little stats, and it was like, look, some of these other teams. I mean, do you want me to read you T1's map win rates this year?
It's not great. I know that.
Do you want me to read them to you?
Sure.
So this is from the entire season, right? Starting. This is for a team that, again, made it to the playoffs of kickoff, right? So got 1 game away from making it to Madrid, and then has made it to Shanghai. These are their map win percentages. Ascent, 5 games played, they won 2 out of 5. Bind, 5 games played, they've won 0 games.
I do remember looking at that, and I was like, what? How have they played this map so many times?
Yes. They have won 3 out of 3 times on Breeze. They've played Icebox once. They lost it. They've played Lotus 10 times. They have won 6 out of 10. Okay. They have played Split twice. They have not won a single one. They have played Sunset 6 times and won 3 of them. So they have 1 map at 100% that they've played 3 times. We know that their Lotus is okay, and they've won 6 out of 10.
Okay.
And then they don't have another map over 50%. This is a team that, again, was one game off Madrid and has made it here. Like,
yeah.
They have 3 maps that they haven't won once. 3!
3 maps.
They haven't won all season. Like, and yeah, 3 whole maps. I can give you Gen G's numbers instead. Gen G have played an unbelievable amount of maps, right?
Yeah.
So, like, Acend, 10 maps played. They've won 8. Bind, 8 maps played. They won 4, right? And again, remember, Gen G are playing these at Madrid against better teams as well, right? So, Breeze, 9 times. They've won 5. Icebox, 10 times. They've won 6. Lotus, 12 times. They've won 9. Split, 11 times. They've won 5. Sunset, 5 times. They won 3. So they only have 1 map that's under 50%. Gen G.
Yeah.
And of all 7 maps, they only have 1 that's under 50%. And even that's only by 1 game as well. And that's Split. Again, when they're playing, Split against better teams, the PaTiTeK, your Sentinels, those kind of teams that they're playing them against. Like, that to me is like, okay, well, you're just a good team. And I'm looking at T1 and I'm thinking, you're not a good team, T1. So my Gen G stocks have risen after seeing this. Because I'm like, okay, they play all 7 maps. And they're at least decent at every single one.
And they're immediately going to lose in round 1 to Lev, right?
Maybe. They got a tough draw, but look, we'll do our top 3 predictions. And maybe Gen G will be in my top 3. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe they will. Maybe they will.
I don't have the run of show up on my monitor, so you're gonna have to leave this section. I don't know where we're going.
Okay. Next, we're just gonna predict the games that we know are happening. So,
okay.
We'll get to Lev versus Gen G in just a second. I actually haven't done my pick'em yet for the games, so I'll do that now as we're talking, I guess. Let's start with, the first one it has here on the pick'em is Team Heretics versus DRG. That won't be the first game, as I said. That'll be moved to the second day instead. But let's talk about it anyway. So you're a bit down on Team Heretics as a whole.
Yep.
But they are playing DRG, so
it would be hard for me to imagine them losing this game. Mm-hmm. I mean, DRG are a team that can randomly kind of have a pop-off game, but it's just, they're so individual. And if there's one thing that Heretics are not, it's that they're a bad, total team. So yeah, they might have some issues on attack, maybe, but I feel like they play the fundamentals well, and PaTiTeK was part of sort of forming that. So I think this is a pretty easy Heretics win.
If Heretics were playing with Weber instead of PaTiTeK, would you still pick Heretics?
Probably not.
Probably not. Oh, interesting. I would say I would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess
Weber subbed in for a game before.
Yeah.
He did okay.
Did he do okay, or was it just passable?
I think he did okay. He was good on one map. I think he top fragged a map.
Okay,
somehow.
Well, maybe I'd still pick them then.
But yeah, I think this one, even with the sub DRG, I mean, I was going through T1, but like DRG are another one that like you look at some of their numbers again, like they have four of their maps. Okay, they haven't played Lotus, right? So you can take that one out. But like 3 out of 6 maps, they have less than 50% win rate on. It is in China, right? So like against teams that like aren't even that good, they still have 3 maps where they struggle, big time.
Sure.
So yeah, like playing against teams that are better, like yeah, my DRG stocks are low. We
feel pretty good about having them in last place, basically, is what you're saying.
Yes. Now the next game here on the pick'em is FPX versus Foot. Now this one is more interesting because FPX are the only thing that make those stats videos interesting because
they can shoot, man.
They can shoot, and they can play some I mean, this might be a truly bizarre game, depending on what Foot comps they want to run.
Yeah.
This could be all over the place in terms of comps. God knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What percentage would you put on this game? I guess that might reveal who you're picking somewhat, although it might not. But what percentage would you give FPX and Foot here?
I think this is probably like a 55-45 matchup. Honestly, I think it's
in favor of.
I think probably slightly in favor of Foot. It might even be closer than that. It might be like a 2%
Oh,
difference.
little Brexit 52-48.
I'm pretty high on FPX at the
Mm.
moment. I think
I mean,
that
I
I think they've gotten better. They obviously they lost to EDG in the finals, but they beat EDG again. So they beat EDG multiple times now in the regional play. They've already been to an international and gotten sort of like their, step up in competition, get the floor wiped with them a little bit. They know what it's like, but now they don't have to travel, so they're going to be a little bit more comfortable. And I mean, if you look at like the stats of the players, like Life is legitimately like one of the he could end up as like a top 3 or 4 duelist at this tournament. Like he's really really good at his efficiency in terms of first duels. Autumn has kind of slotted into this like secondary duelist / flex role, much more like flex kind of supportive recently, and it's been very good. And I think across the board, this team is quite strong. I think they are a legitimate threat to Foot, and Foot is a team that, while they are good, and I know that you've been very high on them, they do have quite a bit of like a peak valley type of nature to their performances. So it's like if they show up and they're not playing that well, I think FPX could very easily win this game.
Oh yeah, I'm totally with you. I do have some. These are like two teams that I like, right? Like these are like two little pet teams playing against each other. A part of me does think that Foot is one of the worst draws for FPX. Like I'm looking at the other teams of like who they could have got, and I'm thinking like, man, if you got Heretics with a sub or G2 or T1, like other than maybe Gen G, like I might be like, well, FPX might beat those teams. Like I would probably pick FPX against a good number of the other teams. But I just like Foot. There's just no other way I can say it really. They've always been a little pet team of mine. Ever since I first
toes, big fan of the
ever since I first watched them play against Team Vitality back in the Tier 2 2022 little tournament they did. And I watched the grand finals.
They didn't have the same team.
They had Mr. Fallen.
Okay, I'm just gonna cut you off there and veto every other.
And Cracks. And Cracks. They had Mr. Fallen and Cracks.
Okay, cool. Two of 5.
That's another same team. I'm
gonna hard disagree. I think that actually I think that this team is maybe one of the better matchups for FPX. I think FPX probably beats T1. I think they beat DRG. Heretics is interesting. G2 I think they would struggle against, and then the Gen G and Lev is kind of like a step up in competition. But I think that Foot is a team that will fight them, and I think FPX will happily take those fights because FPX are a team that will brawl you and they will play weird stuff. And the more chaotic the game gets, maybe the better it gets for FPX. Foot has been shown to they'll maybe overheat a little bit, and who knows. So I think that this matchup is actually relatively good. I think if they were to play Gen G or Lev, instant 0-2. I think against G2 also.
I think against Lev they'd have a chance, honestly. I think against Lev, if they I feel like Lev could get lost in the source. Aspas would be a problem for FPX, but I think the rest of Lev might struggle with particularly like in Americas where everything is quite set in terms of like everyone plays pretty standard. I think FPX is wild stuff. Like it might just completely blow up and FPX would just go awfully, or I think Lev would get confused and not know how to adapt and struggle. And I don't fully agree with you about G2. I think I understand that G2, we know that they can contain aggression and they, can play very disciplined, and I do understand that kind of style would beat FPX, but again, I think that particularly on some of G2's attack sides,
and maybe the weird comps would throw them.
They would get thrown a bit for a loop. But anyway, who are you picking? You picking FPX?
I think for fun, I probably will pick FPX.
Good for you. Good for you.
I know you're picking.
This will be my thing. As long as they don't play Gen G, I will pick FPX in their second game.
Okay.
That's my bet. And then we got G2 versus T1. Do you believe in Sire player? Do you believe Is it a revenge arc? Is that a revenge? It's
this
not really
is an
revenge,
interesting
is it?
one because yeah, it is. It's the Saya player versus his former team core of the the former guard guys, the Valen and
I think it's
Jonah and
revenge. I think they all
Trent.
get on.
And then Rossi is kind of like the underdog NA player that didn't make it into the tier 1 scene in NA, came over to Pacific and is having success. That being said, I feel like G2 will have a decent read on how Saya likes to play. And the style of calling that T1 has had since moving Excurate to that role has been very slow, counter-striking, methodical, kind of like almost like lethargic. It's like, where are we going? Oh, I don't know. I guess, okay, let's just hit the site. I feel like G2's fundamentals are just going to kind of pick apart T1. So I'm pretty happily going to pick G2 in this one.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Like, I'm just thinking about it now, but I'm like, am I just going to pick all the favorites? That's not going to happen for sure. Someone's going to lose, which makes me think it might be FPX who are going to win. Because yeah, I read out to you the T1 map stats. Like
There's no way
what
you're
I think of
picking them after
T1.
that. Yeah.
You know what I think of T1. Again though, here's my thing for this. Whoever wins this game, I predict will lose their second game. That's another little prediction for you.
Okay.
But yeah, I think like G2 have just been so much better than T1. Like
yeah.
But could they fold under the pressure maybe? Like they
Sure.
get a little nervous and stuff like that, like they did in Reykjavik. Maybe, right? Maybe that happens to them.
All right, I don't know. I'm gonna sway your opinion.
Go on.
The most of the losses for T1 are to PaPaReX. They've lost to PaPaReX 3 times. They lost to DRX and they lost to Gen G. But they also lost to DFM.
So you're saying that they have no shot? The problem is like this is the thing. Like people would bring up that as an argument, like, oh, but they're only losing to the good teams. Yeah, they're in an international tournament. Like, who else are you playing now? Like, it's only good teams now. Yeah, you're the weak one. You're the one that everyone wants to get T1. If you make it through to the playoffs, you'll be the first pick. Everyone will be like, yeah, I'll take them. I'll take you, T1. So yeah, I have to pick G2. I have to. Okay, and then finally the banger game, the big game.
Mm-hmm.
Gen G versus Leviathan.
Talk to me.
What an absolute giga banger right off the rip. I mean, look, I like Gen G. I've told you. I read out their map stats. I like Gen G. I think that I think Texture is a goat. Texture versus Aspas. What a game. What an absolute banger matchup that is. Just to see those two aim against each other. Unbelievable. Yeah, I do think that this will be close. I don't think it'll be necessarily an easy win for Gen G because I think Lev will do well in this. I think whoever loses this game will still make playoffs, in my opinion. Like even though they'll be off to a bad start, I still think. I mean, we did in our power rankings, but I would definitely agree that I would put of the 8 teams here not in the playoffs, I would put them 1 and 2. Right. So whoever loses, I still think should do pretty good. I'm going to lean Gen G. Because I do still think Lev, have the weakness in them. I think we saw that in the G2 game that they played. That, I mean, they did lose 9 out of 10 pistols, which is tough. But, there's still definitely some issues there, some weakness there, and I think Gen G, if the Gen G turns up that played against PaPaReX in their like if the teams that played in their most recent game turn up, Gen G will win this 2-0 and it won't be that close, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I'm going Gen G.
Yeah, I'm going to go Lev to be different. I think it is kind of a coin flip game. I'm just going to go with Aspas will go crazy.
Very well might.
He'll get to
Will
play.
There be no one there? I'm still a bit confused with what's going on here.
What do you mean?
Like, because of the whole Gen G thing.
Oh, is Gen G going to be allowed into China? Is that what you're saying?
Like, I think they're being let into China, but like that they're not getting broadcast and that maybe the fans won't be there. I don't know.
Wait, really? Is it really?
I don't know about the fan stuff. I think that it's not getting shown on the Chinese broadcast, I think. But I don't know what. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. Hopefully it's I mean, who knows? Who knows what will happen, but
we'll just have like a little cell phone TikTok stream from somebody in the crowd streaming the game. That's how we'll get to watch it.
Yeah. Okay. Feel good about your pick'ems? I don't. I've picked four favorites, so I feel awful about it. Like, there's literally 2 of these 4 games, the underdog will win. Like, that's the way it works.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel good about my pick'ems. I was feeling pretty good about my pick'ems early on in the season.
T1 win.
And then,
T1 win.
Okay.
T1 win.
Okay.
I've changed it. T1.
Great.
T1 win.
Well, now I feel better about my GT pick.
Yeah. Good for you, T1.
You did that whole talk about how bad they are, and now you're picking them. So that's
I needed to pick an underdog, and FPX are probably the right choice, but or Lev even is that even an underdog though? I don't know. But good for you, T1. Whilst we're here as well, the next thing that I had wrote was predictions for who makes playoffs. So of the 4 teams, and obviously it can be any 4 teams. I'm gonna let you go first. 4 teams. Who makes it?
4 teams that make playoffs. Okay, so since it's Swiss, the winners will play each other, and then okay. So I think the 4 teams I'm gonna go with are G2, Gen G, Lev.
Getting tough, eh?
I go with Heretics.
Oh, okay. Okay, I like it.
I know that I've been talking about how they've been struggling, but I just, man, I kind of just have a hard time trusting any of the teams. And Heretics, despite, again, playing with a different roster, they've been more trustworthy than anybody else. I could just go FPX for the spiciness. I don't know what about me is so doubtful of Foot, but I've just been doubting this team. Like, I like this team. Yeah. I like what they do, but I just have been doubting them all year, and I don't really know what it is, but they just have not convinced me that they're a playoff caliber team at an international event.
Okay, that's fair. Look, I'm gonna go a bit wild here because I'm gonna pick 4 teams from 2 matchups. I'm gonna pick Genji and Lev.
Okay.
Which I think is, probably most people would. Yeah. And then I'm gonna go FPX and Foot. Okay. Both make it. Those are gonna be my 4 teams. So we agree on Genji and Lev, but then you went G2 Heretics, I went FPX Foot. Sorry, T1, even though I have now picked you for that first game. But you won't be going.
You're getting all spaghetti in the brain at this point. Who knows? Who knows what you're actually thinking about?
And then finally, the final thing on the docket is let's go back and forth, saying who we think will finish 3rd, 2nd, and then 1st
for the overall tournament.
Overall tournament. So you go first with your 3rd place, and then I'll go with my 3rd place, and that's it.
Okay. So history has showed us that a group stage team usually makes a deep run. So I'm gonna go with a 3rd place run. From 100 Thieves. I'm not going to touch. I'm not going to touch the group stage team at the moment.
Okay. Interesting. My 3rd place team will be a group stage team.
Good.
But not the one that you probably think. It's not T1. It's not Foot either.
Yeah.
My 3rd place team is going to be Leviathan.
Okay.
Finish in 3rd place.
Okay. So we both go with Americas in 3rd.
Cool. Your 2nd place team.
2nd place team.
This is a great way of doing it, by the way, because you could say anything here and no one knows.
Yeah. Second place team. Ooh, okay. So I'm just gonna. I don't want to spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it. I think my second place team is going to be. I don't know if I believe in Genji. Don't know if I believe in Genji. This is such good podcast. It's just empty silence.
Just complete silence.
I should have planned this beforehand. I didn't know this was a topic. Second place team, also 100 Thieves. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with the classic. It's going to be PaTiTeK.
Oh, no.
It's going to be PaTiTeK.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, my second place team will not be PaTiTeK.
I know it won't be.
They will not finish second in this tournament because in second place will be 100T Thieves.
Okay, big America's bias coming out from the European guy. Big America's bias from the European guy. How dare you?
Go on, and your winner. So you've had 100 Thieves third, PaTiTeK second, and in first place,
Dragon Ranger Gaming. I'm just gonna pick Fnatic. Like I could be spicy. I could pick Genji. Okay. I could pick G2, but I'm gonna go Fnatic.
Okay. So that was 100 Thieves third, PaTiTeK second, Fnatic first. A Fnatic PaTiTeK final. And for me, I've gone third place Lev, second place 100 Thieves, and in first place.
Yeah, it's PaTiTeK. Everybody knows.
It's not PaTiTeK. It's Genji! It's Genji! They get revenge on America's team and win the tournament.
That'd be pretty sick. I'd be down for that. I think that would be a cool one. So you're saying PaTiTeK finishes like fourth then?
Yeah.
Okay.
PaTiTeK's fourth.
Okay.
That's what I would have said. There you go.
Sad for PaTiTeK fans, but happy for Pacific fans if TMV's prediction comes true.
Well, if my prediction comes true, then the EMEA fraud region discussion will be, because then they would have no one in the top 4.
Kick them out, bring Acend in, we'll fix it.
That would be the fraud allegations would be through the roof, but I'd be happy if that happened. If Genji won.
Yeah. I mean, God, I really want Pacific to win a title. I think it's so important for this to happen. I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like I just have a hard time picking it until it actually happens now. And so
look, they have a good chance. They have a good chance. Yes. They have two, like if DRX were there as well and playing in form, that was the thing. That's why this kind of was the tournament, because it's like, hey, if you can send 3 good teams that all have a legitimate shot, that would be good. Yeah. Unfortunately, they're sending T1. So we're down to 2. But they have 2 teams that most people, I think, would rate them in the top 4. And so you got a good shot. You got a good shot. Okay, Genji got a bad draw in Lev in the first game, but, they have a shot. Even if they lose that game, they still should make it to playoffs. And from there, who knows what'll happen? Like, that's the thing. If Genji make it to playoffs, no one's picking them, right? Like, they will be the last team picked. I'm fairly certain. If they make it to playoffs, because why would you want to? I mean, I guess Lev as well if Aspas is frying, but why would you want to face the wrath of Texture? Who wants that? No one. No one wants to face Texture.
Question for you. Last question for you.
Go on.
Will the Viper nerfs change the meta at all at this tournament? And will teams overcook trying to correct for that?
See, it's interesting because I would say that some teams are already on that path, right? Like FPX playing a no Viper Icebox, right? They're already on that kind of path. The same for Heretics as well, playing a no Viper Lotus. Will it change the meta for this tournament? I would suspect mostly no, but there are, like, for most of the maps, right? Like Icebox, Breeze, Bind, Lotus, I would expect mostly no. Those maps, I think, will mostly be the same. But for the other three, could you see less Viper on Split? Yes. I know EDG played Viper on Sunset. Maybe they'll change that, right? Like, I think Sunset may be Split, and obviously Ascent is just Ascent. You might see less Viper there, but I don't think it will have the biggest impact, because I don't think that the teams, especially with the travel as well, will have, especially for the like, if you're starting in playoffs, you probably have time, but for the other teams, I'm not sure you will have had enough time with the traveling as well to change all of your maps, of course, like maybe one max. They'll want to change, but Viper is still good. Yeah. Like, that's the thing, like, Viper is still good. Yes, Viper is worse, but Viper is still better than most agents. So just play Viper. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, and see, that's one of the reasons that kind of gives me some extra hope for Fnatic, is that they're very stagnant in their willingness to change stuff. And so other teams might be like, oh, well, we got to get off Viper. And Fnatic will be like, we'll just keep playing Viper. Yeah. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Let's put up that Lotus wall again.
Exactly. Cool. All right. Well, Listen, guys, thank you for tuning in. I guess we'll kind of have to see what the next podcast is going to be, as far as like whether it'll happen in the middle of the tournament or after. But, be sure to check out the sponsor, YAASA. Make sure you enter for that desk giveaway. And let us know what you think about our predictions in the comments. Be nice. You guys were very mean to me last time.
What did they say?
Like I said, they told me I was an idiot for not picking Paper X as the best team in the world.
Maybe. That's sad. I will just say that the 28th, there are no games next Tuesday. So I would guess we probably would do one.
Okay.
If there are no games.
Cool.
The Swiss stage will be over by then, and we'll know the playoff matchup. So yeah, that seems like a good time to do one.
Beautiful. Okay, guys, that is it. We'll see you next time.